My wife Diana is a striking blonde with long legs and captivating green eyes, while I, on the other hand, am a more understated presence. I stand tall with blue eyes, brown hair, and a scar on my left cheek from my time in the military. We're both 34 years old and have been together for 11 years. Our two sons, Pavel and Kostya, are 10 and 8 years old respectively. I work as an expert in a jewelry salon, evaluating and authenticating antique pieces. Diana, on the other hand, works in a beauty salon where she excels in manicures, pedicures, and haircuts. Although she has a university degree in refrigeration plants and equipment from the University of Technology, she found her true passion in the beauty industry. Soon after completing her degree, she pursued makeup courses and her friend helped her secure a job in a salon. She quickly built a thriving clientele, thanks to her skills and valuable connections. Once a year, we take a family trip to the seaside. However, we prefer more relaxed and less crowded destinations such as the Baltic or the Black Sea, rather than the bustling resorts of Turkey or Egypt. Our intimate life has always been fulfilling, and I've always strived to satisfy Diana's desires and explore new experiences together. We've never had any complaints, and I'm always open to experimenting and embracing my wife's suggestions in this aspect of our relationship. That was the situation until recently. However, 6 months ago, her mother fell ill, and Diana dedicated all her energy to helping her. She spent countless nights by her mother's bedside, which took a toll on our family dynamic. Although everything appeared fine on the surface, my wife's tiredness from work and caring for her mother affected our intimacy. She would softly explain, "You understand, I'm exhausted from work and taking care of my mom. Not now, my love." Her touch on my cheek was comforting, but the phrase "not now" became our constant refrain in our married life. It applied to everything, from sexual intimacy to vacations. As her mother's illness continued, my wife visited her more frequently, sometimes even more than she spent time with me and our children. It was a daughter's love, and I knew I couldn't be jealous. Diana hadn't given me any reason to feel that way, and in a big city like ours, secrets seldom remain hidden. I trusted her completely, believing that Keezer's wife was above suspicion. I foolishly thought that if something was going on, I would know. But now I understand how foolish and arrogant I was. I recognize that some women's nature makes them susceptible to adultery, prioritizing their emotions and desires above everything else. They immerse themselves in the intoxicating whirlwind of love and forget about their husbands, children, and even their conscience. In their eyes, everything else fades away, and they become the sole focus. The day had been chaotic from the very morning. As I arrived at work, I realized that I had left the bathroom light on. Although it wasn't a significant issue, I decided to call my wife at home and ask her to check it. To my surprise, there was no answer on either my home or cell phone. Just as I contemplated heading back home, I received a call from a client. "Yuri Vidalevich, my good man. It's Nikolai Andreevich Mezentsev bothering you. Can you come to my place and take a look at something for me? I've been offered an antique platinum ring from the mid-19th century, but I have doubts about its authenticity. I'm willing to pay you generously for your consultation." The man on the other end of the line had a captivating resonant baritone that could easily sway anyone. Mezentsev, that name triggered a memory. A wealthy philanthropist, known for his lavish lifestyle, spending summers at home and winters in Spain, with a stake in the oil business and ownership of several newspapers. It appeared that he had decided to invest his wealth in antiques. "Well, if you've got the funds, we're on our way." "All right, I can be there by 4 o'clock. Please send me your address via text," I replied. "Great. I'll have the seller here by then." "I won't say goodbye," Mezentsev said before disconnecting. I made another attempt to call my wife. Still no answer. Frustrated, I decided to contact the salon. A friendly receptionist with a sweet voice informed me that Diana Sergeyevna wouldn't be at work today, as she had taken 3 days off on her own accord. Mezentsev's residence was situated in an exclusive cottage village, a 30-kilometer distance from the city. The opulence of his mansion was evident from afar. As I walked along the tiled pathway, I pushed open the weighty front door. Greeting me at the threshold was the sophisticated playboy, approximately 45 years old, wearing a robe that barely covered his exposed body. Through the robe's lapels, I caught a glimpse of his graying, curly chest hair. His entire demeanor seemed to suggest that he was graciously bestowing upon me the privilege of sharing his oxygen. "Please, Yuri Vitalievich," he said, sporting a friendly smile. "Let's head to the second floor, to my office." We ascended the marble staircase, entering a hallway adorned with several doors. Behind one was his office, while the others appeared to be bedrooms. Before we could exchange even a few obligatory remarks, his cell phone began to ring. "Mikhail Viktorovich, yes, I'm home. I'll meet you right away," he exclaimed into the phone. Turning to me, he added, "Just bear with me for a moment. Yuri Vitalievich. I'll be back down to meet the salesman. Please help yourself to some cognac or whiskey." Mezentsev then proceeded down the stairs without closing the door behind him. Feeling a tinge of agitation, I decided to call my wife again. Where could she have disappeared to? My nerves were beginning to fray. The long ringing tone resounded once more, and a painfully familiar melody filled the air. Initially unaware that it was my wife's phone, I ventured into the hallway. Guided by the sound, I cautiously approached the nearest room and slowly opened the door. Inside, an unkempt, sizable bed stood beneath a canopy of delicate blue silk. A phone with its screen emitting a gentle glow lay askew on the bedside mat, an accidental fall, it seemed. Momentarily stunned and unsure of how to react, my heart raced, alternately pounding in my throat and dropping into the pit of my stomach. Eventually, I crouched down and retrieved the phone from the floor. Upon its burning screen, I beheld my own face, accompanied by the label "Favorite." There was no mistaking it, it was Diana's phone. Disconnecting the call, I discreetly stashed it away in my pocket. As I glanced upwards, my eyes settled upon the disheveled bed. The delicate straps of her pink bra peeped out from beneath a pillow. With gentle tugs, I retrieved one of them, finding myself clutching my wife's fishnet, lacy bra, the very same set that Diana and I had purchased just a month prior. Sliding it into the inner pocket of my jacket, I made my way back to the study with haste. A few minutes later, the room's owner entered, accompanied by a thin, unremarkable-looking man. "Allow me to introduce you," the owner stated, gesturing towards us. The guest presented an aged Morocco case, and I accepted it with trepidation, dreading that my hands might betray my emotions. Exerting every ounce of self-control, I gingerly lifted the lid to reveal a resplendent antique ring adorned with a vibrant ruby. For several minutes, I meticulously examined it through a magnifying glass, scrutinizing the marks on the inner band of the ring and observing the dance of light within the blood-red gem. There was no doubt. This was indeed an antique ring, a product of an unknown Russian jeweler from the mid-19th century. "I wish to gift this to my beloved," the owner declared with a touch of smugness. I wordlessly drafted the evaluation report, handed it to Mezentsev, collected my fee, and hastened to depart. I couldn't bear to linger in that house any longer. The knowledge that I was the husband of his mistress gnawed at me. I had no doubt that Diana was his mistress. The effort it took to maintain my composure was immense, and I yearned to unleash my pent-up frustration. Fortunately, my military training had left me with the ability to maintain self-control. I sat in my car for an extended period, immobilized by the revelation. So this was the man whose bed, or rather, in whose bed, Diana had spent her evenings and nights for the past 6 months. Even her own mother had been complicit in concealing her daughter's indiscretions. In that moment, I felt a wave of despair. Why was she doing this to me? The desire to vent my emotions was overwhelming. If I could, I would have screamed aloud. I need to collect myself and make a decision. Where should I go? All right, I'm heading back home to put an end to this chapter. I took a left turn and set off on my journey. After a while, I merged onto the highway, heading towards the bright and relentless city lights. My romantic life hasn't been smooth. Women seem to depart sooner or later. This pattern goes back to my childhood when my mother left me for a new love, making it clear that I didn't fit into her envisioned happy future. Now I have a wife, After 11 years of marriage, she's chosen to embark on a new path, seeking a fresh start. I can't help but wonder what it is about me that prevents women from staying with me for long. My father, too, never remarried after my mother's departure. He loved me deeply and was concerned that a stepmother wouldn't be able to fill my mother's shoes. He believed that women shouldn't be burdened with the responsibility of caring for another's children. In his view, it was a man's duty to raise and support children who weren't biologically his. The saying goes, it's not the father who conceives, but the one who raises. Yet this rule didn't seem to apply to women. That's how we lived. Two men left behind by the women we once loved. And then my father passed away, and I moved in with my grandparents, an orphan with a mother who was alive but distant. Men are often criticized for being cruel, but I beg to differ. On the journey to find personal happiness, women can be equally ruthless. They'll go to great lengths to achieve their goals, even if it means leaving everything behind, including their own children. In terms of cruelty and cunning, women can sometimes outshine men. Diana, what was missing in her life? Was it love, tenderness, money, or adrenaline? For the past 11 years, I've never even glanced at another woman, but maybe I should have. Did she view my love as a weakness? Did she convince herself that I would never leave? Perhaps Diana never loved me. It doesn't seem like it. We've been living soul to soul all these years, and I would have known if it was fake. I would have felt it in my heart. Until today, there were no signs of my wife's infidelity. Everything seemed normal, and that's what hurts the most. Damn it. Diana had been cheating on me for almost 6 months, lying in someone else's bed while pretending everything was fine. The morning monologues, taking care of the kids, taking care of me, it was all a lie. I recall the words of an emancipated lady I know, a husband is a potential enemy. Do they really believe that? And do they act accordingly, even going to bed with the enemy? The outcome for me was clear. I felt uncomfortable and disgusted by Diana's actions. A cheating woman is like an ashtray that may look clean, but is filled with the remnants of discarded cigarettes. Another thing, amidst everything that unfolded, I surprisingly felt calm. Maybe later on, I'll truly comprehend the horror of the situation. Right now, it feels like I'm in a daze, just watching from the sidelines. When I arrived home, Diana was still absent. I entered the kitchen and retrieved an empty cognac bottle from the cupboard, placing it on the table. However, I resisted the urge to drink, opting instead to have a sober conversation with my wife. Diana arrived well past midnight. "Yura, I'm sorry," she began, throwing off her coat and boots in the hallway. Vicky was having trouble with her husband again, and I had to be there for her. I wanted to call, but I seemed to have misplaced my phone. It's probably still at my mom's. Diana's words spilled out quickly as she made her way towards me. Giving me a peck on the cheek, she remarked, "Oh, cognac, pour me a glass. I've had an exhausting day. You wouldn't believe the load I've had to carry between work, the kids, and everything else, including a lover. It's not something every man can handle." I looked at Diana in silence, wondering how she would navigate this situation. Would she confess to the affair or continue to play ignorant? "I'm going to take a shower," my wife announced, darting towards the bathroom. It was evident that she hadn't been at Vicky's today. Strange, if her lover didn't have a bathroom, yet Diana had refrained from showering. Was it a fetish? Or perhaps sins were simply better cleansed at home? Diana uttered something, but the sound of the rushing water drowned out her words. It didn't matter to me what she said. What mattered was what I had to say. A short while later, my wife emerged from the bathroom, dressed in a bathrobe with a towel on her head. She flashed a seductive smile and poured herself a glass of brandy. For a fleeting moment, it almost felt like nothing had happened. Just another ordinary evening among the many we had shared. But that illusion faded quickly. "Diana, please sit down," I said, struggling to maintain my composure. "We need to talk." Have you ever noticed that conversations about infidelity always seem to start with the same phrase? We need to talk. Whether it's the husband or the wife initiating the conversation, it's a clear sign that explanations are about to be given. Diana looked at me with surprise, pausing her cooking for a moment. Can we postpone this until tomorrow? She asked uncertainly, avoiding eye contact. I could tell she suspected the topic of our discussion and was trying to buy some time. But I was determined. Diana, are you involved with someone else? I asked, doing my best to keep my voice calm. What do you mean? My wife responded, her face displaying genuine surprise. Playing the fool, I thought. I mean, do you have a lover? How long has this been going on? I pressed, struggling to maintain my composure. A year, 6 months, a month? Yura, what on earth are you talking about? She exclaimed, her indignation seemingly boundless. She played the role of the innocent victim perfectly, not a single muscle in her face betraying her true emotions. Diana, let's not be ridiculous. I know everything. How much, with whom, and where. By the way, did you happen to find a cell phone? We should call Mom, I said, placing her phone on the kitchen table. Diana's pupils dilated, and she covered her mouth with her hand, a mix of surprise and fear evident in her eyes. Where did you find it? She whispered faintly. I openly mocked her. I found it in Nikolai Andreevich's bedroom. I wonder what you call him. Bunny, Pouncy, Kolenka, or maybe Kolek? Diana was on the verge of tears. She didn't even ask which Nikolai Andreevich, so she must have known exactly who I was talking about. In his bedroom, in his bed. I suppose. And did you massage him with your, I teased. Diana screamed in response. What are you even talking about? She seemed to have regained her composure, and I quietly placed my bra on the table. It was the pink one with the lace. Diana fell silent, desperately searching for an excuse. I was feeling hot, so I changed into a robe and took off my bra at the same time. You know how sweaty breasts can get, especially in a bra. You men just don't understand. I burst into laughter, so there was a little striptease, huh? Diana flinched as if struck, realizing that her excuse wasn't working. Yura, I love only you. I don't need anyone else. I don't know what you're imagining, but I'm telling the truth. We have 2 children. What lover? What adultery? Diana dropped to her knees in front of me, pleading, my darling, my darling. I'm not guilty of anything. You're the only man in my life. Please believe me. Diana's sobs filled the room, her emotions overflowing. She held onto my hand tightly, pressing a tender kiss against it. Tears streamed down her cheeks, displaying the depth of her love and regret. It was impossible for me not to feel moved and forgive her. Tears can be powerful, especially for us men who are often more emotionally vulnerable than women. All I wanted in that moment was to embrace Diana, kiss her beautiful eyes, and comfort her by running my fingers through her hair. Cheating? Who cared if she was simply at work and happened to drop her cell phone or forget her bra? None of it mattered. She was honest and sincere with me. However, my forgiving heart was shattered by the sight of a familiar antique platinum ring adorned with a blood red ruby on her right ring finger instead of her wedding ring. As I sat in silence, listening to Diana's heartbreaking lamentations, I noticed a subtle change in her tone. Her voice was no longer filled with hysteria, and I wondered if she interpreted my silence as a sign of reconciliation or if she was attempting to convince me of her loyalty. Women have a way of studying and analyzing men as if we were a unique species, trying to nurture us and teach us to trust their hand. I couldn't help but be sarcastic in that moment, as I struggled to comprehend the gravity of the situation unfolding before me. Diana's tears subsided, and she gazed at me in silence. She probably expected me to embrace her, seeking solace. After all, how could she expect anything else from a clueless jerk whose wife had been pregnant for 6 months unbeknownst to him? Tentatively, Diana reached out to hug me, but I recoiled. Where did you get that ring? I asked, grasping her right hand. A ring? Diana looked puzzled, her gaze betraying her confusion. Which one with the ruby? That ring, I said, my voice tinged with frustration. Where did you get it? Diana's realization dawned on her, but she desperately clung to hope, struggling to hold on to her crumbling words. Oh, that was just a gift from a friend. I tried it on to see if it suited me. Cutting her off, I mustered my resolve. Enough. I think it's best if you leave now. especially if you have somewhere else to go. I'll handle the divorce proceedings myself. We can discuss the children tomorrow. Standing up, I knew it was time to put an end to this charade. Say hello to Kolenka, I muttered abruptly. Diana's sobbing softened as she rushed to gather herself and get dressed. She made a few attempts to communicate with me, but I remained silent. As she reached the doorway, she turned back, an unspoken plea lingering on her lips. Without saying a word, I quietly closed the door behind her. When you truly love someone, you don't have room for anyone else. No one. Absolutely no one. And once someone else invades that sacred space, the harmony of being together shatters, irreparably breaking the bond.